Welcome to another breaking video here on Blue White Illustrated and our Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Ryan Snyder, swapping out our experts here because we got so much stuff going on a Friday afternoon. This is normally, just so you know, this is normally when we all, I'm not trying to give away any secrets here, we all check out a little bit Friday afternoon because that's when you check out normally. But can't do that when Penn State's landing high four-star tight ends, top players in classes, and now guys for 2026 that at least I'm very excited about. So Ryan Snyder, welcome to our latest edition of Committed. Who is committed to Penn State now?
Talk about a Friday news dump, T. Frank. I mean, holy heck. Jerquaden Guilford, guys. I know everyone's probably just still realizing that Andrew Olesh just committed, but we're going to talk about Jerquaden Guilford in this video because, boy, they just got a really good 2026 wide receiver as well. Let me get into it real quick. Right now, our three-star prospect. It is very early, obviously, in 2026 rankings. Ranked number 419 nationally by the industry ranking. We do top 400 guys end up being 4 stars, and I would not be surprised at all if Guilford is one of those guys in the end. Goes by Quay, so we can call him Quay, Jerquaden, whatever you guys want to call him here. But man, really excited about this pickup for a lot of different reasons. Let's start with the fact that he came to camp, and Penn State knows exactly what kind of athlete he is. We talk about this a lot, right? But man, he had a really, really good showing on the second day of Penn State's Whiteout camp, which, of course, this year they did I think it was July 26th and July 27th. They kind of separated it. And man, he was absolutely one of the star receivers of that second day. Ran a 4.5 that day, which is, obviously that's what you want to see from a 6'2", 170 area. I think actually now he's up to about 180-pound wide receiver. He's out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Northrop is his high school as well. And again, just comes back to some really impressive testing numbers, a 31.9 triple. Guys, that anytime you're getting towards a 32 triple broad, you're talking about explosion. That is, man, on the absolute highest level. 90 would say 97th percentile, something like that. I mean, I can only think of Peter Gonzalez.
To get above 30 is the marker of that's when you should start paying attention.
Oh,
when
for
you're
sure.
a receiver and you're doing that. Now it's like, okay, my eyes are starting to get wide the more you talk about these numbers. And then we'll show you the film here in just a second. But that's the kind of athlete this guy is. By the way, I should always talk about this early in the videos as opposed to at the very end. If you're here on a Friday afternoon, you're a Penn State football junkie. Subscribe to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Please like the video. Help us share this with as many people as possible. So the comments down and below the video, Ryan, of another 3-star. Another 3-star receiver, Ryan. Another 3-star receiver is not going to compete with Ohio State. Listen, when I say, Ryan, he looks like an Ohio State wide receiver. He moves like an Ohio State wide receiver on film, which we'll get to you in a second. But I cut you off there, obviously, so I apologize.
Yeah, well, the one thing I was going to say is the only guy that I know off the top of my head that won above 32 is Peter Gonzalez with that 32.03, I believe it was. Jasheer Rogers was a 31.10, I believe. So he's right there as far as explosion. And I think you guys know how highly we've spoken of Jasheer Rogers, over the last couple of months. But just to get into the background on Guilford's recruitment, he picked up early offers from Miami and Louisville. I believe those are in, anywhere between January and March 2024. But his recruitment really kind of took off in the summer when he went to Ohio State and picked up an offer immediately after camping with the Buckeyes. And I think Penn State, he was already on Penn State's radar by then, but they were able to get him up then at the end of July for their, like I said, Lasch Bash Whiteout camp. And, that's when he really, grabbed the staff's attention, showed exactly what he's able to do. Of course, they offered immediately as soon as he left campus. And then, boom, a flood of offers obviously came in after that. Georgia was one of them. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's a heck of a program that I know a lot of fans get excited about. But, Indiana, Michigan State, West Virginia, Wisconsin, they were a handful of the other schools who came calling there in the last handful of months. So I think this was really all about relationships again. We talk about it all the time about how much NIL and all these other things impact stuff. But, Penn State did a great job with that Lasch Bash experience, because it wasn't just about the Whiteout camp. He did hang out for the Lasch Bash, really got to know, the entire staff that day. And they stayed on him, really throughout pretty hard as well. So I think it's a really important pickup for Penn State, as far as this is a guy who's a little bit different than Jasheer, a little bit different than LeVar, Keys, of course. They all bring different things. Wow, they already have 3 wide receivers, by the way, in 2026. I didn't see that coming before we even get to the start of the new year. So I think that's certainly a talking point that we got to keep an eye on. But I think the last thing I'd have to mention too is that he was just on campus last week for the Maryland game. That gave him the experience of seeing Beaver Stadium, see what those game atmospheres are really like, and he raved about it, man. And it really, obviously, without the student section and things like that last week, it was a pretty tame atmosphere. But to him, it was really more so about getting his family back on campus and being treated as if, he was absolutely one of their top prospects. I mean, he just consistently has raved about Penn State staff, the conversations they've had. And, it's not just about, how they develop him, but really how they've recruited his entire family and treated his entire family. And I think he's repeatedly, spoken about that over the last handful of months, and really spoke about that again, after that visit. So fans can read that in the commitment story. It's up on the page now. Check it out. But here we go. 3 wide receivers now, 8 total prospects now in the 2026 class. And man, things are rolling right now.
I want to just underline some of the things that you were saying, that it is early in the 2026 process, and here are the visits he's taken. So the offer list, which you just saw there, was extensive, but the trips he's taken: Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Ole Miss. All of those are schools that are serious about recruiting wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
All those are schools that have been successful at recruiting and producing wide receivers. All right, so let's talk about then. Let's step back a little bit from Guilford and talk about the receiver class, because again, when I show you this, there are going to be certain feelings about this in terms of same old from Penn State. But I want to talk to you again about Jasir Rogers, LeVar Keys, and now you've got Quay Guilford in this conversation. A couple of guys that have elite speed, 5'10", 5'10 and a half, and now 6'2". Overall, this class looks really blended well together. But just, again, refresh everyone's memory on what kind of athlete Jasir Rogers put up this summer to the Penn State staff.
Yeah, I mean, around like a 4.3. Let's start with that. I mean, honest to God, like, we talk all the time about how numbers are inflated and all that. Like, my man actually ran a legit, I think it was like a 4.36, 4.38, somewhere in that ballpark, and 4.2 shuttle. I mean, Jasir Rogers, and obviously just go watch his film. Like, his bounce is incredible. Honestly, I can't think of too many guys. Maybe Chaz Coleman to some degree after watching some of his dunks last couple of weeks. But yeah, Jasir Rogers is an incredible athlete. And then LeVar Keys had a heck of a year down at DeMatha. I mean, he really emerged as DeMatha's top wide receiver in the class. And another guy who came to camp, put up great numbers he doesn't have Jasir Rogers' speed, but LeVar Keys was really good too. I think he wasn't that far off. I think he was maybe like a 4.4 flat or maybe a high 4.3 as well. So I apologize. I don't have his numbers right in front of me as well, but Keys is obviously looks like a slot guy, somebody that they can get in, small spaces and make plays. We'll see. I would assume Guilford's more of a true X, and then we'll see kind of with Rogers moving forward.
Just a quick review again of what we see here on the film, and I'll just put it up here. This won't be terribly long, but for a 2026 wide receiver to move the way he does, 6'2", you mentioned the athleticism numbers, but what you can see just here from the highlights: hands catcher. Obviously, when we get in deep into the film, we'll learn more about stuff like that, but has good route running earmarkers to start his junior season on film, where this is a guy who's 6'2" and can run good routes, can change directions well, and has an understanding of the position. Also, just being able to go over top and look natural catching the football, all those things, you've got a lot of really positive markers here from a recruit. So when we talk again about a guy that Alabama wants, that Ohio State wants, this is from a prospect. T. Frank wants to see certain things on film from those guys. He's got so many of those markers, and it doesn't take you very long to see them. So your final thoughts here on Quay Guilford and Penn State's work so far in the class of 2026, which is looking really good so far.
Excellent start. Yeah, 3 wide receivers is the big thing, right? Because we've already getting a bunch of questions. Can they take 5? Can they take 6? And let's remember, there's a 363 days or so till they can sign. So I think the portal and what happens there when it comes to incoming and outgoings. Let's see how that shakes out, and then we'll be able to get a better feel for like actually how many wide receivers they would like to take. But let's also remember that the expanded scholarships, it had a big impact for 2025 class. Of course, adding Olesh today, they're up to 27 commits in that class. And to some degree, I think that will carry over to 2026 as well when it comes to just let's go get top guys. Let's not think about all these little individual numbers. And of course, Penn State's working hard to rebuild their wide receiver room moving forward. So, guys like Davion Brown and Connor Salmon, Travis Johnson, all three of those guys are, really good prospects in Virginia. We've talked a lot about Elias Koch, obviously, being at Harrisburg. He's a guy that Penn State would absolutely take. And then I think it is Madden Williams, I want to say, out in St. John Bosco in California, just had Penn State among their top 6. So they are absolutely in the mix with a handful of other guys, and I'm very curious to see where that goes. But, here we go. Man, off to a blistering start for 2026. I wrote yesterday, 4 reasons to be really excited about this class. And, fans can go check that out. But when you look at defensive line and some of those guys in the region, and obviously the start that they're after, the start that they have had at wide receiver, the fact that they have a quarterback already in the class, by the way, Troy Huhn, who they, I've talked multiple times about how Troy Huhn was one of their top 3 quarterbacks that they absolutely had to get, and they got him. So there's a lot to be excited about from that perspective. And by the way, junior days start in 35 days or so. So it's the momentum. It'll slow down here a little bit with playoffs and everything coming up. But
recruiting will slow down. Recruiting will slow down.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But it is a quiet period in December too. So. They can't host official visitors and coaches aren't going on the road and all that. But 2026 guys can come up to campus here and watch bowl practice here over the next, I think it's 14 or so days. So keep that in mind moving forward.
All right. We'll be on top of it. Well, Ryan will be on top of all of that for you over at bluewhiteillustrated.com. Great time to sign up and get in on all the information, all of the intel that he and Sean Fitz have over on the site. I'm Thomas Ryan Carr. We'll be back with more football coverage, recruiting coverage, all the great stuff, including we're going to have a reaction show to the selection of Penn State's bowl fate on Sunday. So make sure you tune in for that as well. We won't have a time for that exactly, but if you subscribe to bluewhiteillustrated.com and you enable notifications, you'll get a notification on your phone of when we go live, so you know when that happens. So another great reason to subscribe here to the channel. We will be back. Appreciate you being here. So stay tuned.